right, and then I'm going to share my screen. I'm not sure I'm sharing my screen. Okay, here we go. Yay. Hey. Okay, so I'm Terry Vanover. Thanks so much, y'all, for showing up today. I'm streaming live. We're doing a workshop on healing abandonment. This is my healing abandonment masterclass. So thanks for joining me. I've got a lot of ground to cover. I will talk fast. There's a myth that Southerners talk slow. In fact, I have to slow myself down quite a bit. So let me just tell you kind of what this is about. And then I'm going to pause and take a couple breaths because I tend to get super excited and give you kind of a tool to help you feel grounded as well. So my intention is to help you understand that there are some keys that if you know how to heal from unresolved childhood abandonment and trauma, you can create amazing new relationships and you can move forward faster, feeling more secure, more confident, and freer. My unhealed childhood trauma really contributed significantly to my divorce. And it wasn't until after my divorce that I recognized that. But I don't regret that because it was also the key and the start of my healing journey. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that too. So at the end of our workshop, I'm going to share how we can connect even further and how we can work together at the end of this. So I invite you to stay. All right, so let's talk about who am I? Who is that cute little kid with the bangs, right? Like, hey, 70s, we got the bangs going. That's me. And like I said, if you've been here since the beginning, you heard my Southern accent from the get-go. I grew up just a poor country girl from Virginia. I'm actually from Virginia. I'm living in Chicago now. And my mom, you know, she suffered a lot of trauma herself as a young child, as a young woman, abuse, neglect, severe neglect. And she, you know, didn't even have a high school diploma. She, you know, quit high school. So she was a single mom. She had two little kids by the time she was 21. So I was raised in a very unstable home with my mom, who, you know, we were very poor. My father, my biological father, was what I think we term today as a functioning alcoholic. And so he left us very shortly after their divorce. I can count on maybe one hand the amount of times I've interacted with my biological father. And those instances, those interactions were pretty negative. He said some pretty negative things to me. So that is really what I feel like was a significant part of my childhood abandonment. The chaos, the abandonment from my biological father, and then what few little interactions we had were pretty negative. He would say disparaging things about me or mock me and things like that. And I was sexually abused when I was 5, 6 years old. I think right around this picture for me triggered a lot of like stuff for a very long time. Now I can look at that little girl and see her smile and see her beauty, but it took me a very long time to really recognize the beauty in that little girl because I carried around a lot of shame, a lot of trauma, a lot of stuff. And it really bled into my marriage. And, you know, my marriage like fell apart within a few short years when my little kids were young. And I didn't recognize it at the time. It was all that childhood trauma that was really manifesting itself into my intimate relationships. And we had a horrible, horrible divorce. You know, it was just, I made every mistake that you can make, like most people going through a divorce who don't know what the hell they're doing. And I ended up homeless, lost my health because I was hit by a car. My mom had a stroke, so I lost my support system because my family had to kind of, you know, deal with that, and family, friends, financial mistakes, everything. So to say that it was the lowest point in my life is really just like, that's not even, you know, if you've been there, you understand how devastating a divorce can leave you. But it also, for me, was the start of my healing journey. And I'll talk a little bit about that too. And the good news is, from that, I left a career and started coaching people on how to heal childhood trauma and heal from divorce and childhood abandonment. And I've really, really put my life together again. And so I really am really proud that I used such a horrible, devastating instance to put my life back together. I've co-authored 2 women's empowerment books. I get to be around my own personal heroes. There's Jack Canfield, and I am around amazing people, coaches, spiritual gurus. I mean, just amazing people that I never thought I would ever have that kind of support. And I'm remarried to a wonderful, amazing, sexy New York Italian who's taught me so much about love and generosity. And we've extended our family, and my ex is remarried. His wife is one of my best friends. We love to hang out together, talk. We get real deep. We have really deep conversations. We're very supportive of each other. And if you had told me that while I was getting a divorce, no way in hell would I have believed you. No way, no way, because we were not friends. And now we hang out and support each other, and it's all for the benefit of our kids. Traveled around the country, speaking this message, and it's just amazing. And I do believe it is possible. If it's possible for me, it's possible for anyone. It's so possible. So what are you going to walk away with at the end of this masterclass, y'all? You are going to learn how to feel secure, how to feel confident, how to feel at peace. I think that's the best part of this for me, no matter what happens, COVID, setbacks, challenges, whatever it is, I just am in a state of peace and serenity like I've never felt before in my life. You're going to get tools to create better relationships. And it starts with you. I'm not going to lie. It starts with recreating that relationship with yourself. And then you start to create relationships with others. I'm going to teach you how to let go of regret, anger, hurt, guilt. Thank you, Tammy, who is on Instagram and is saying some beautiful words about this. And you're going to learn how to trust again, and you're going to learn how to set firm boundaries. Look, I am all about light and love and openness, but I'm also about those boundaries are really about telling ourselves that we love ourselves. And so boundaries are key as well. All right, so this is where I'm going to take a moment. This is where I told you I'm like talking a mile a minute. And a big part of what I do in my Finding Peace Again programs is teach my clients and teach participants how to ground themselves, give them the tools to self-soothe, to self-love, to self-acceptance. And so one of those things is a lot of breath work, a lot of body work, integrating that into what we do. So we're just going to take just a moment, and we're going to inhale for 4. I invite you to do this with me. I like to put my hand on my heart. And exhale for 6. This is a really great grounding breath work. Another round of inhale. And exhale. And as you are doing this round of 4 counts of inhales and 6 counts of exhales, I invite you just to allow what comes up, any thoughts, any feelings, just see it, note it, let it go. It's okay. It's all right. Another round of inhale and exhale. And it's okay, whatever comes up, we see it, we recognize it, we let it go. And exhale. And also I invite you to be here in this space with us, just to be open your heart, open your ears, open to what the message is that you need to hear today, open to healing. And I welcome you here today. All right. And whenever you're ready, whenever you feel grounded, Whenever you feel ready to join us, come on and join us. All right, lots of people on Instagram. I've never done a workshop live on Instagram, so I'm kind of excited. All right, y'all, I gotta tell you, when people think of childhood abandonment, y'all, they only think of like what I was telling you with my father, who, boom, went off, left. We didn't hear, anything from him for years. And what we did was pretty better off being abandoned, so to speak. And so people have a misconception of what childhood abandonment is. So, you know what? Let me get to that, because I want to talk about what causes childhood abandonment. And then I'm going to talk about how it manifests in your relationships. So yes, is it a physical someone leaving? Absolutely. It can definitely be someone physically leaving us, like myself, but it doesn't have to be. And also, there can be multiple causes of childhood abandonment, little t trauma, all that kind of gets lumped into this. So this will kind of cover that as well. So chaos, instability, unpredictable household, having significant poverty, having illness in your family. And one of the things that I frequently run across, I would say 75% of my clients in the Finding Peace Again program probably have significant emotionally unavailable parent, whether it's substance abuse or mental abuse or just alcoholism. But when I dig deeper into those clients who say, what are you talking about? My parents are still married, they're great, they're loving, they're this and that. And then we peel back the layers. The truth is, their parents, through their own, upbringing or their own trauma or their own dysfunctional parenting from their own upbringing, they had unrealistic expectations of their children, or there was a dysfunctional relationship between parent and child, where the parent had to be, or the child had to fulfill a parenting role, or were seen as a peer, or the parent's love was conditional. And I'm going to talk about one of my clients too, because this is really, he really just was adamant. I'm not abandoned. I'm not this, I'm not that. And then the layers and layers and layers that we have healed since working together have been pretty significant. And he's let go of so much of the shame and feelings of unworthiness that had manifested in so many parts of his life, especially professionally. And then, he was going through a divorce, so feeling about that. So, children have a way of making everything about them. We know that, right? If there's a divorce, children think, oh, I must not have been a good enough kid, so my parents, divorced each other. Or if I had one client who the brother was very, very, very special needs, significantly ill. And so the parents had to give a lot of attention to that. And, children have a way of perceiving things and making it about them. So this, as an adult woman, she knew intellectually, I have a sick brother and my parents had to be there. But the truth was, her emotional needs were not being met at a significant developmental stage in her life. And so she internalized that and said, okay, I'll just be, she's ultra independent, she's ultra this and ultra that. But it left her with these subconscious wounds of not feeling that she was worthy for her parents to get that attention. Children just tend to do that. They tend to, not consciously, but they tend to make things about themselves. And as adults, we look back and go, well, we intellectually rationalize it. But the truth is, as a child, we internalize it, and we end up with feelings of unworthiness. Or I had one client, and her term for it was like she was neglected, and it turned into invisibility for her, and feeling invisible, unheard, unloved, unworthy. So it's just really key that you understand it doesn't have to be necessarily a parent who just, totally ups and leaves you and never leaves you again. There can be, so let's move on to, okay, so what do we do about that? Okay, so here's the thing. Awareness is the key to moving forward. So oftentimes just being aware, like my client, Chris, for example, who was in the Finding Peace Again program, when we peeled back the layers, because he'd been in such denial that he came from this upbringing that was, perfect, right? There's no such thing. And the truth was, his parents had very, very conditional love. When he did not achieve, they withdrew their love, affection, and attention. And that's traumatizing for a young kid. And that's childhood abandonment. So the key is becoming aware. So whenever you feel triggered or you feel judgmental or negative emotions come up for you, these are indicators where you need to heal. So for example, with that client in the Finding Peace Again program, his big thing was achievement, especially materialistically and monetarily. So because that is his upbringing, he was told, unless you do this in school, again, it wasn't like this conscious, like, we don't love you. It's just the attention and a positive affection was taken away from him. So he would often feel judgmental to his friends who were successful. And he would, like if a new friend or a friend of his got a new home that was, nice, or got a raise and a job or whatever, it would trigger so many feelings of insecurity and unworthiness within him. And so what I showed him how to do was to identify the root of that and heal the root of that. So the key is becoming aware of what it is in your past that caused you to feel that way. So if you understand that the negative emotions are there to teach you something about yourself and where you need healing. So it serves a purpose in your healing, and the practices of meditation is integral in faster recovery. So why, and I'm going to get to this in the next slide too, but why do we practice that? Like we do the breath work and the being still and being calm, because unless we practice it in a conscious, intentional way, then when we're out in the world and things trigger us in the real world, we're just not as aware. It's just like when you run a race, right? Emotional healing is just like those, it's like physical preparation. When you run a race, you go out there and train. You just don't like sign up for a race one day and like expect to win, right? You train for it. You take slow steps, you start building up your stamina. And that's what we do in my programs, in my Finding Peace Again program. We build up your stamina for emotional tolerance and for emotional healing. And it's a step-by-step process. So my loneliness was the start of my journey. Like I said, I was just a hot mess during my divorce, probably like a lot of you guys can relate to that. Just like, oh my God. But I think for me, I call it today as like a healer and a teacher, I call it like consciously surrendering to it. But at the time, I didn't have any of this articulation or anything. I just knew when I was in this like strange woman's basement, because I was homeless at the time, and I was in the strange woman's basement, and I just was so unhappy. For me, this is the awareness, right? I had the need. I wanted to go out so desperately, y'all, and go get men's attention. Because here I was in this horrible, state of life, getting a divorce, feeling rejected, feeling unlovable, unworthy. And I desperately wanted to go out to clubs and meet men and get that external validation. And that was probably one of the healthiest things that I did at the time was like, girl, You were so lonely during your marriage and you're lonely now. I think you just need to sit with this loneliness. I mean, I made a conscious like decision to just sit in that loneliness. And that was the aha, that was my awakening, I tell you, right then and there, because it was in that basement crying night after night, watching really sad documentaries on TV, that I kind of like, I recognized like, oh, I really want the male attention because I feel like my own father didn't love me. So I was filling that void through other men. And for me, that loneliness, I was lonely while I was married. I was lonely while I was divorcing and separated and all that stuff. And so it was that aha of like, oh, this is about me. I've got to figure this out. And then, I started learning tools and digging, exploring, learning, taking classes, figuring out what is this about and how to heal it. So that is the big thing. It's like just sitting with the emotions. So that's why I, tell my clients, like, we've got to practice the meditation. We've got to practice sitting. Now, some of my clients who have more significant trauma, sitting still, it can be a little difficult at first. So there's other things that we can put into place and put into the process that makes being still more tolerable. And I'm going to get into why that is in just a moment. So let's talk about signs of childhood abandonment. Like, why, Terry, who cares? Like, that happened to you, who cares? You said you're glad your biological dad's not in your life anyway, you've moved on. But the thing is, just like my client Chris, just like me, this unhealed abandonment will cause you to sabotage relationships. You'll ruin relationships. You'll be an unhealthy partner in your relationships. Those feelings of shame and inadequacy show up in most of our relationships, but particularly in your intimate relationships, because like I said, you will try to fill that void with a partner and it'll turn up as unhealthy relationship dynamics. So if you feel anxious, unless you're in complete control, like control is a big sign of childhood abandonment. Feeling constantly lonely or feelings of unworthiness, insecurity, jealousy is another one. Feeling like not enough, mistrustful, constantly second guessing yourself, not trusting yourself in your decisions. If you tend to be, some abandonment children tend to be very successful professionally, like my client Chris, because again, he was very driven. I was very driven. When I like devote something to it, type A personality, go, 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 right? But my intimate relationships were a hot mess for sure, because I was not a very stable, I was not a good wife. I was very controlling. I was very needy. I was very insecure as a wife, constantly needing reassurance from my husband at the time. So, sometimes these abandonment issues manifest as like being successful professionally, but like my client Chris, it was an artificial success because no matter, I even posed the question to him one time. I was like, well, okay, you got that beautiful house with the beautiful pool and the beautiful everything. Like, what do you do now? You go to now you go to a bigger mansion. Like, when is it ever enough? That's the thing. It's never enough because you can't heal internal problems with external solutions, which is what my client Chris was doing, which was what I was doing. I was trying to heal that lack of like love and feelings of unworthiness, trying to get someone else to love me, give me attention, feed me, love and acceptance. And you can't do that. You can only do that yourself. So what is the first step in the healing? The first step is really, yes, and fear of abandonment and yes, that's, yeah, I could give y'all even more signs. Yeah, so, fear of loss. For me, it would also be energetically, I would push, I actually attracted healthy partners, but I'd push those partners away and expect them to come back to me, which was dysfunctional, because after a time, people get tired of being rejected over and over and over, or you're sending mixed signals. So it's, I was showing up in that relationship. So intense fear of being left behind is a big one. People pleasing is another sign of childhood abandonment, because again, you don't feel worthy. So you get your worth from other people. So you're afraid to tell no, because then they won't like you, and you don't have good boundaries. All of those lead into that. Or in my case, it wasn't so much people pleasing as it was ultra independence, because I don't trust anyone. You're going to leave me anyway. So I'm going to build the wall here, and you can't hurt me, or I'll hurt you before you hurt me. So it just depends on how everyone kind of manifests, but they're all signs of childhood abandonment. Yeah, push them away before they can leave me. Yeah, absolutely. Because secretly, I would push them away, but the secret was like, I really want you to come and tell me you love me, and that you won't leave me no matter what. It didn't matter, no matter how crazy I got, I want you to still love me. Which again, that's my dysfunctional pattern. That was showing up in me. That's not healthy. Nor should, I have partners who are going to tolerate the chaos and the dysfunction and the craziness that I'm creating. So what is the first and most important step in healing? It's kind of twofold, y'all. Kind of lied here, because it is about like taking responsibility for healing the underlying shame and feelings of unworthiness. Now, I am not blaming our parents, because I think our parents do the best we can, but it does help to understand the root of the childhood abandonment. And then the next thing is to understand the triggers, right? And in understanding the triggers, you have to put in a practice so that you can soothe yourself. Because what happens with children who have severe abandonment, like, some of us who feel unsafe, insecure, chaos, right? You have to learn the process of soothing your parasympathetic system. So mindfulness, meditation, breath work, body work, they're all life-changing tools that if you integrate, again, this, y'all, I swear, this is not woo-woo. I am a mom, stepmom of 5. If I can do it, you can do it. We all can do it. And I will tell you, this has made me a much, much better mother, a hella better wife for sure, because I'm not always looking to my husband to, make me feel better. I know how to do it myself. And I also, now I'm, pretty adept, because I've been doing this for years, that understand what that trigger is, what it means. But the truth is, as a child, you felt unsafe or unloved or unworthy, or you felt unaccepted, or you felt rejected. And so the thing is, as children, our bodies store that energy, and they store that, and it reacts as a way of like perceived threat of danger. So our bodies are in this heightened sense of fight or flight all the time. And so we have to use tools to soothe that parasympathetic nervous system, so that then we can do the tools that I'm giving in the next 2 tools, to feel at ease, to feel okay, I am safe. And I mean, I'll tell my clients like what my mantra is when I'm like triggered, or my sympathetic nervous system is kind of like gotten out of whack. I tend to put my hand on my heart, or it tends to be in my neck, or in my gut, in my upper stomach. And I just breathe into that, and I say a mantra. And most of the time it's like, you're safe, you're okay, it's okay. And I'm just telling myself it's okay. And I'm just soothing that nervous system. Again, I think my mom did the best that she could with the tools that she had, but she didn't have a good child rearing experience herself. She was one of 20. So like, you can imagine the lack of attention. I think I just saw Heather's face, like, what the hell? Yeah. So my mom had 9 10 brothers. I think one brother died as an infant. So she had 10 biological, but her father had 10 more kids. So you can imagine the lack of emotional connection she probably got as like a young, poor, uneducated, child growing up in the coal mines of West Virginia. And they moved around a lot. I actually can't really tell you where my mom's from, because they lived in Florida, they lived in West Virginia, they lived in Virginia, they lived in Georgia. So, I mean, she suffered a lot of trauma. So I don't blame my mom, but I also know that like just identifying the root of that and what I needed from my mom has helped in that healing. So you've got to identify exactly what these unhealed triggers, where they go back to your root and heal that. Now, your first relationship with your parents, it shapes your perception of what love is. Now, many of us, like people pleasers, are good ones at this. They're not good at recognizing red flags. And if you come from a lot of trauma and chaos and dysfunction, those red flags actually feel like home. It feels like home. So a good example of this, John was in my Finding Peace Again program 2 years ago. And he had this really dysfunctional cycle where his wife would leave him, literally leave him, go live with a boyfriend for a short time. But he'd always take her back. She'd have an affair, she'd go off with some guy, and he's always would take her back. And what I did was showed him that actually it was a deeper connection. This felt like home for him, because he was like, I'm done. I want to leave, and I can't break this cycle. But the thing was, he never really identified how this really went back to his childhood abandonment, that his mother was married to his father, who was like a raging alcoholic, who would go off on benders. And while the father was gone on these benders, the mother would, give attention to her son, and they'd reconnect. And it was actually a time of good time for the son, because he was actually getting his mother's attention. Father would come back. And again, all of that attention that was on the son now would go to the father, and also keeping that father placated, right? Keeping him from drinking, keeping him, we don't want to cause fight. We don't cause, and of course, there's also the tumultuousness in just living with an, very abusive alcoholic as well. So he had this, attention, abandonment, like this was like a cycle. So it was no wonder he was recreating this in his adult life, because your parents shape your perception of what love is. So as long as she kept going back to him, that felt okay. She really does love me. She really does love me. But really, she was using him, and it's not a healthy relationship. So I showed him how to quickly heal from this childhood issue. And the truth was, really, truthfully, y'all, it went back to forgiveness of his mother and forgiveness of his father. So we do a little bit of forgiveness work as well as identifying that root of that, and also soothing that parasympathetic nervous system, giving him some other tools to calm down. And then he sent me this one morning. I woke up. I really don't like you right now. I love this. This is the testimonial I like. Your exercises really hurt, but I'm learning a lot. So thank you. Again, on the other side of that pain you're feeling is the peace. I know it's not easy. I know it. I've been there. I've been through it. I've done it. And sometimes it like, oh my God, this sucks. But I know I'm getting better, and it's getting better. I'm feeling freer. I'm feeling lighter. So I love that. I love that. So let's go to, so what else did I do with John? And so with Chris, with John, with Sue, we do a lot of inner child work. And I know that sounds like, again, woo-woo. When I first started doing this stuff, I was like, this sounds really woo-woo. I just don't know. But the truth is, rituals, journaling, these are quick ways to bypass that intellectual part of your brain and tap into that creative part of you that will help you to heal even faster. And science is catching up with some of these woo-woo things, which is what I love. If you haven't read Your Body Keeps the Score, it's like the latest in childhood trauma and healing, and all of this is in there. It's all about like, look, we've got to give that wounded inner child, we've got to give that child who's traumatized what they need. But first, we've got to soothe that parasympathetic nervous system so that you can receive that safety, that security. So that's why there's like a multiple layered approach to doing this, y'all. It's like, I wish I could just give you like the thing and just give you the thing and say, do it. But like, we need that accountability and that support to help walk us through this. So the inner child work focuses on addressing the unmet needs by reparenting yourself. And it's different for every person. And that's why you need someone on the outside looking in, okay? Because you need someone on the outside helping you identify the root of it. And it's different for everyone. So for me, I identify it as, I feel that mostly two things come up for me usually. It's like, oh, I feel unsafe and I feel unloved. Those are the two kind of like my defaults, as I call them. And so I know how to counter those defaults, right? And so like, but with my clients, some of them have said for them, it's what their inner child says to themselves. So one of my clients says, I'm invisible, I don't matter. For others, it is a lot of shame and I don't feel worthy, or no one loves me. So it's, those distinctions are important. You think like it doesn't matter, but the distinction, it does matter, because we have to get to that root of what the inner child feels so that we can address it specifically. So another thing that we do is, what is reparenting? So it is a step. So this is the 4-step process of healing abandonment through the process of reparenting. So the first step is to notice when you're triggered, notice the feelings, what comes up. So what comes up for one of you guys is going to be completely different than for another. It may be because we all have different perceptions. As children, we perceive things differently and we make sense of our world in different ways. So you have to figure out what's the event or the person that's triggering you, and what's the feeling that's being triggered deep, deep, deep inside. And then you meditate on what the root of that abandonment started. So again, this is why it's really vital that you put into place a practice, so that when you're triggered, you're not trying to do this in the moment of feeling triggered, that you've already practiced this art of sitting still, of allowing what comes up, and then naming it. Naming it is vital, because we've got to name it accurately so that we can give you the tools that you need to heal it. And you acknowledge that hurt, and you name that pain, and you're specific, and you ask, what is it? You ask the younger version from the adult version of yourself, what is it you're needing right now? What is your needing? And for me, oftentimes I need to hear, you're safe, you know, I'm safe, I'm loved. Sometimes it's acceptance that can come up for me, but what are you needing in that moment? And then you give yourself that. If you can't give that to your younger self, you have to be honest and you have to acknowledge it and say, well, I can't really take you out to the park right now. I had one of my clients, and one of her things was not feeling celebrated. Again, this is that acknowledgement. She came from a great home and her parents did the best they could, but for her trauma manifested, her abandonment manifested as like feeling invisible, not like she didn't matter. And so she needed, what her younger inner child was telling her was like, she needed to be celebrated. And she went to a park and got herself a cake and celebrated. And lo and behold, she won like a competition like the next week at the thing. I was like, that's the universe, girl, telling you you're on the right path. Like that was a huge sign. I was like, that is amazing. That is the universe telling you, you hit it, you are on it. And then after you examine what that wound is, you've got to reparent yourself. You've got to give yourself that thing. If it's acceptance, you've got to give yourself acceptance. For my client Chris, who had that abandonment of like never, only giving himself attention, affection, approval when he reached a certain like material milestone or did accomplish things in his career. You know, I would, you know, we would practice the art of like acceptance and validation, even when you failed. Oh, you didn't get that contract? Okay. That's okay, buddy. Good for you for taking that risk. You got this. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for doing that. So it's giving yourself what it is that you're needing, and it's different for every person. And if it's safety, you give yourself that sense of safety. For me, for a long time, like I told you, I've been very open and transparent about my own shit that I had to work through. But like, I would definitely look to my husbands, my partners, like, make me feel safe, give me this. And then we had this instant recently where someone hurt me. And like, I was, you know, that old little girl's, you know, throwing a tantrum. You should say this and you should do that. And I kind of like went off on my own, meditated. And I was like, oh, I see what this is. I see what this is. I'm okay. I've got to give myself this right now. I'm looking for my partner to protect me, but it's okay. I'm okay. I don't need that protection right now. I'm safe. So through the process of reparenting is where you can really naming it. Okay, so you asked a question. What is the process of naming it? So you've got to figure, that's the thing, you've got to do the inner work, and you've got to figure out when you feel triggered, when this person says something nasty to you, and you sit down, you go home, and you just sit still with those feelings. What's this pain that's coming up? And that, if you practice this, it's not going to be easy to do the first time. I'm not going to lie. You're not going to sit down and then voila, all this stuff is going to come up. You might have to practice sitting with these feelings several times before that inner child feels safe enough to tell you, oh, I'm feeling very lost, or I'm feeling, for me, for a long time, it took me a long time to kind of uncover the layer of like vulnerability. I felt, if I feel vulnerable, I feel triggered. And so when I understood and I uncovered that layer, for me, that was a game changer. That was a game changer in my marriage, because once I started becoming vulnerable in my marriage, then we could open up to each other, and I knew I was safe and I could trust him and all that stuff. Powerless. For me, it was identifying feeling powerless. Again, as a child, and you're going through trauma, you're going through abandonment, you may have complex feelings, you may have complex things that come up for you. So it's identifying, and again, these are layers. You'll peel back one layer and go, oh, okay, it's this. And then you peel back another and like, oh, snap, like, oh, I feel very powerless. I feel unsafe, and so identifying the root of like where that started. And for me, connecting the betrayal of that friend to understanding that I felt very powerless when I was being sexually molested by that family member was like a game changer. I was like, oh, okay, this is why I'm so angry at this person, because it's making me feel very powerless. And I felt very powerless as that little 6-year-old, 5-year-old laying on that bed underneath a 14-year-old boy. I felt very powerless. So to identify that and recognize that and say, hey, girl, you're okay. What do you need in this moment? So when I asked little Terry, what did she need when she felt powerless? She needed a voice. She needed permission to say, no, I don't want this. I want out. She needed a voice. And so I just utilized that in that present moment with that friend who was betraying, because everyone's telling me like, oh, just let it go, just, whatever, forgive and forget. I hate that term. And I was like, no, I need to say no right now. I need to have a voice, and my voice is telling me, no, I don't want to talk to this person. I don't wish to interact with this person. So I, again, let it go. And then I did forgiveness work around it, and It's amazing. So it's a multiple tools, y'all. It's not just one thing. It's like utilizing multiple tools to help you heal quickly. And that's what I'm all about, quick, right? So these are just what, some of my finding piece again graduates say. Therapy's never really worked for me. What you do does work for me. Thank you. This is one of my clients. I've had lots of good insight on many things. My mind is cranking. And when you feel stuck, when you feel hopeless, when you feel like taken advantage of, for you to feel like free again, it's amazing. Here's another one. When I came to Terry, I was struggling with the fear of being alone, the unknown, anxiety. I felt paralyzed by life and how to even move forward, even just to get out of bed. Now I know I'm capable of really, really tough things. I feel more relaxed. I'm continuously working towards my best self, and I find joy. I feel more energized. That's what I love. Go from feeling stuck to feeling amazing. So I want to offer y'all, I have 2 complimentary sessions set aside where we're going to talk about your specific healing abandonment strategy. So is this for you? So you might be thinking, should I jump on this phone call? Okay, so if traditional therapy has left you still feeling stuck, this is for you, because as you can see, the program that I'm going to talk about is actionable. There's conscious things to do. There are things that, I always say, like, it's like a 3-day delay. Like, you do something and then 3 days later, you realize, holy mackerel, I'm free and feeling energized, and I'm not feeling stuck anymore. And I feel more confident, I feel more secure. So if traditional therapy has left you just feeling stuck, this is for you. If you are willing to do intentional, actionable exercise that will quickly transform your life. I always say this, I once had a coach who would tell me, don't tell people on the call that they have homework in your program. And I was like, well, if you want results, you got to do the homework. So I set that out there now, hey, this is only for you if you will do the journaling, if you will sit down and do a little meditation, if you'll do some of the breath work, if you do some of the body work, if you'll really take some time and think about things and reflect on things. If you're ready to feel happier in all of your relationships, I got clients who come away, they're here for divorce and relationships, and then all of a sudden their professional life, skyrockets. Oh, I got 2 new clients this week. I did this. That's right, because you're a different person. You're no longer sitting there, wanting to be accepted. You are your authentic self, and people are more drawn to that. And people like boundaries. They feel secure around those boundaries. If you're an action taker and you are ready to invest in yourself because you're done wasting precious time. Life is too short. That's how I look at it. Life is too short to hold on to that anger. Life is too short to hold on to that bitterness, man. I have so much pain. If you're ready, willing, and able to make changes needed, if you just knew the how. When you're the victim of someone else, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, will this work if you're the victim of someone else? Yeah, just like I said with healing the trauma from that betrayal of that friend, that I was in victim mode for a little bit. I was in pain. I was in anger. I was very bitter. Yes, you can definitely heal from that. And you have to take accountability and say, hey, I'm ready to let this go. I'm ready to take responsibility for my healing and stop blaming that person and start living my life. So you definitely can heal from things that other people have done to you, for sure. Been there, done that. So if you are ready to become your most secure and confident, like I said, I set aside 2 complimentary sessions this week and early next week because our program starts next week. I'm so excited. The 3 keys to healing abandonment so you feel secure. You can find that right partner that your kids will adore. This is the session for you, y'all. On this phone call, this is a life-changing phone call. You guys are going to learn the key to identifying the root of your unhealed wound so that you stop feeling lonely, stop feeling unworthy, and you can feel secure and confident in all of your relationships. Trust me on this. On this session, we're also going to go over how to heal all the abandonment, the rejection, shame, negative feelings that have been weighing you down for years and years and years, so you feel lovable, worthy, and so that you step up both personally and professionally. Like I said, Chris, his biggest thing was, he came to me, he's 56 years old, and the only regret is like he just didn't start it sooner, because you carry around the stuff for so long and you don't have to wait. I'm also going to give you the #1 strategy to trust yourself and others so that you know that you're attracting healthy, fun, secure partners, trustworthy partners. That's really the key there. It's about trusting yourself so that you can attract trustworthy partners that you deserve. So I'm going to post the link here. I've got to just grab the link. Oh man, it says I can't minimize Zoom when I'm recording. I forget this every time. Oh my God. All right. So I don't know how to do this, y'all, when I have my Zoom out. Oh, I did it. Wait, I think I can do it, y'all. Okay, I think I figured it out. Yay. All right, so I'm putting my calendar link in here for y'all. Boom. You can just copy and paste this from the chat box. I'm also sending it out on email. We've already got the email set out for you, so you don't have to worry about it if you don't get it. But so figured it out. Yay. So, and I will put this on IG too. All right, I'll put that link in there, y'all. I didn't forget about you. All right. Also, y'all, I would love it, love it, love it if you want to just post something on Facebook, what your biggest takeaway is from the workshop. Post your biggest takeaway from the, if you're in the meetup group. I know some of you are coming from meetup. I know some of you are coming from Facebook. Because I would love to hear, like, what's your biggest takeaway? And just share it with me. Let me know and share it with others so that they'll come to the next one. Again, that Calendly link is here. It's in the chat box. All you have to do is just cut and paste the Calendly link into your, sometimes my keyboard gets stuck. And then I would love, love, love to talk with you one-on-one and like identify your issues individually. It would be my honor. All right, y'all. So listen, I thank you so much for coming. I thank you all for your participation today. I look forward to seeing you. All right, I'm gonna let you go. Bye. Oh, y'all are welcome. Y'all are so welcome. All right, let me cut off the IG, y'all. So crazy. Thank y'all so much for coming.